Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today's Monday, May 6, 2019. Hope everybody had a great weekend. Let's get started over here at the grandsolarminimum.com, where we are listing all of our links to all the articles that we covered tonight. There's even a spot for you to watch the video as we stroll along. Let's get started with our solar wind speeds sitting around 354.8 kilometers per second with a density of 4.4. Let's go into our space weather section here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel. And first, I want to take you to this chart here. If we have experienced some C-class flares, almost M-class flares as well. Let's take a look at it a little bit zoomed in. By the way, we still have AR 2740, but we are also talking about the possibility of AR 2741. Now, here's some of these stronger flares. And it was that final strong flare down here at the bottom. Let's see if we can trace this here, folks. It is being said now that this region right here that shot off the last, that one right there, was responsible for, or possibly responsible for, the 7.1 earthquake that we received today. So we'll get more into that as well. But there's a look at our sunspot AR 2740. And they are talking about the possibility of another big sunspot here, according to SPACEWEATHER.com, with one big sunspot at AR 2740 already turning towards Earth. Another big sunspot, AR 2741, is now emerging over the sun's eastern limb. Amateur astronomers with safe solar telescopes are encouraged to point their filter optics here and monitor the developments. And of course, they had a little write-up on the flare today. Now, this is the strongest flare that we have seen from our sun since October of 2017. I was joking with Starman earlier on Twitter. You know it's a solar minimum when everyone is paying so much attention to an M-class flare. But let's be fair, folks. I mean, M-class flares aren't that weak. They're a little bit on the stronger side. So it's pushing closer to the X. So anyway, sunspot number 40, and we still sit at 74 days without sunspots for the year of 2019. Obviously, right now we are in a stretch of spots appearing. In fact, we are looking at possibility of another one coming in over the eastern limb. By the way, nothing in the form of coronal holes or anything to be concerned about. Watching a couple areas here at the very earth-facing point of the sun. A small little flare plus some activity, but nothing really coming of that as well. And taking a look at our star on the reverse side, there's our two sunspots we're talking about, possibly a third one right behind it, and then another one at the negative 180 in the southern part of the equatorial region of the sun. So very active here on our sun over the past couple of days since we reported last. Let's take a look at this in motion, zoom this in just a little bit. Here's our sunspot, folks. This is sunspot number 14. Let's try to get this to play. That's the fun part. Nope, it doesn't want to. All right, so we won't see this in motion. Not much to see anyway. Just kind of steady as she goes. But again, we've had some C-class flares close to M-class. A C9.9 was the strongest of the bunch. And today, we were reporting here earlier that we had a earthquake of 7.1 in Papua New Guinea. Here's the TSI reading for April 23rd, and it comes back at 1360.646. Somehow I feel like that probably should be a little bit further along. I'll have to double check on that, folks. My fault on that one. And let's get right into it. So we were already talking about the C9 flare here at SPACEWEATHER.com. We also see a little write-up here from Watchers.news. Moderately strong solar flare measuring a C9.9 erupted from AR 2740 at 5:10 UTC on May 6th. The event started at 5:04 UTC and ended at 5:12 UTC. This is the strongest solar flare since the M1 at 23.28 UTC on October 20th, 2017. Type radio 2 emission with an estimated velocity of 740 kilometers per second was associated with the event, suggested a CME was produced by the flare event. The current position of this region does not favor Earth-directed flares. Here we see where the C class measured. Still quite a ways from the M class, but still strong enough to be talked about today. As like I said, we're in a solar minimum. So this is going to make the news. When you're looking at the sun right now and you see the blank disk, and then we have this little bit of flashing going on, yeah, that's something to talk about. So, but that's about as much action as you're going to see during these minimums, especially where we are now heading into the deeper part of this minimum. Thanks to the watchers for all the coverage on this particular story. And I'm pretty sure, yep, we're going to stay right here with the watchers and talk about strong storm hits the Yucatan. Heavy rain, hail, and power outages have been reported. Strong storm, described by local media, one of the strongest in recent memory, hit Yucatan on May 5th, 2019. The worst affected were central and southern areas where heavy rain flooded roads and homes. The rain lasted for more than 2 hours and was accompanied by winds of 31 miles per hour. Power outages were reported in the north, and intermittent power outages were reported in most municipalities in the south area. Hail sizes of marbles was reported in some areas as well. The storm came all the way from the Pacific Ocean, breaking a period of intense heat. So this was a much needed storm here in the Gulf. Moving right along, we talked to you about, here's another report. Now, Watchers.news gives us the basic stats. I'm just going to read the headline, really, and then I've got another story here to follow it up with. Strong earthquake hit 7.2 in Papua New Guinea around 21:19 UTC time, May 6, 2019. The agency is reporting a depth of 78.8 miles. Nothing has been affected yet as far as the humanitarian part of this. And here's a little update from this same earthquake, a little bit more information for you. According to Geoscience Australia reports, the large quake, which happened on Tuesday around 7:19 a.m. local time and has the depth of around 146 kilometers in far north Queensland, the Bureau of Meteorology had said. The epicenter of the quake was 34 kilometers from the town of Bulolo, which is a population of 16,000 people. Does not report any damage, no tsunamis. Here is a little bit of video footage. So this was the tail end of that earthquake. He said this one lasted a little bit longer. Let's take a look and see exactly where we had this quake at on the map. Let's zoom in a little more. This was inland. This was not out in the middle of the ocean. But no tsunamis were reported at this time. No damage was reported at this time. No fatalities, no injuries. But we will keep you guys posted as the information becomes available. But again, like I said, to start the broadcast off, something with these solar flares and all of a sudden we get a strong earthquake. Well, that's stuff that we talked about on Saturday night. I hope you guys had a chance to check out the interview with Scott Chapman. It was his presentation. It was almost a 3-hour program, but we went over a lot of one-on-one stuff with the grand solar minimum, cosmic rays, seismic activity, climate, you name it. We covered the basics of it, and really, there's so much more to talk about, but well put together. He put some time into this presentation, and I think it helps people understand a little bit more what we're trying to explain here when it comes to the science of what's happening here. Historic Arctic outbreak affecting Europe and Northern Africa. I talked about this on Thursday night, about how we were going to have one of the coldest May Day bank holidays in history. Well, here we go. A significant Arctic blast is affecting almost the entire Europe and parts of Northern Africa. Some regions are dealing with heavy snow, below freezing temperatures, late season frost. Another blast of cold air is expected from May 11th to May 18th. So they get a little bit of a break and they're going to get more cold weather. And what you're looking at here, folks, are like coffee pots with burning coal fire to help keep frost, keep the temperatures just above freezing to help prevent any kind of crop damage. Temperatures plunge close to and below zero in many places, with many record low temperatures reported. Higher altitudes of Germany above 2,300 feet saw some snow on May 4th, but significant amounts were registered in the Alps. up to 1 foot or more. Heavy snowfall was reported mostly in northern Italy, May 5th and May 6th. 2 people were killed and another is missing after high winds and heavy rain hit Italy and France on May 5th. 1 person was killed in Sicily, Italy, after an unexpected gust of wind smashed him against a parked car as he tried to go into the sea. Another person was killed in France after being swept away by high waves on the island of Corsica. Third casualty is a man who ended up in the waters of the canal between the Messino and Pozzolo, Italy, during a fishing trip here. And here we have a picture that says it all. Some spring snow here, folks. Check that out. Looks like winter wonderland. It is May 6th. Not extremely late, but we are getting to that point of the year in the northern hemisphere where, you know, it's supposed to be warming up here in the northern hemisphere. We shouldn't be seeing any of this sticking right now. All right, let's continue along here. Take a look at that. Here we are greening in April, beautiful weather here. We had some nice temperatures across Europe. And then 30 days later, we're looking at a snow-covered orchard. May 5th, 2019. Wow. So historic cold outbreak. Coldest temps they've seen in over 2 decades. Here's a little bit better idea of what these buckets of fire are doing here. Producing CO2. Maybe it's keeping everything warm down there, huh? No, I'm kidding. But this is how they're going to fight the frost damage. This is pretty early. And you can see there's flowers blooming and the grass is green. No time for below 0 temperatures. These are not winter temps or pictures, folks. This is May 5th. Look at this. That's quite the heavy snow, folks. That's not just a dusting. And we are talking about temperatures here. This is May, heading into mid-May right now. And these look like conditions of something that we would see in January into February. Below average temperatures will continue over the next 10 to 12 days with another blast of cold air hitting the continent from May 11th to May 18th. Heavy snow is expected across the Alps, northern Italy, and into Bosnia as well. And take a look at the temperature anomaly, how much colder air is supposed to move into the region. Here we are, May 10th. This is neutral, slight warm up around the 11th, and then we see another Arctic blast once again pounding the region. And this colder air sticks around, and finally we start to see some normal spring-like temperatures in Spain and France, slowly moving up into the UK. But this cold temperatures are just, Italy gripping Germany, Denmark. And finally, by the 20th of May, we start to see some normal-like spring temperatures, but still cold anomalies happening this late in the year. You got to believe it has a lot to do with moisture that we've had, but this unusually late season cold air, this is definitely has to do with what we've been talking about on this channel for many, many years now. And lower sunspot activity, inconsistent weather, shorter grow seasons, longer winters. And, you know, we're seeing these temperature up and downs here in May. This is where we usually see it in late March and early April. And we're in early May, heading into mid-May, and still clearly looking at winter-like conditions through the middle part of May. Believe it or not, this is a snow depth chart over the next several days. Hard to imagine that we still have snow falling in parts of Europe. Unreal. Leave a link on the website here. You guys can check it out on watchers.news. And Ebola, back in the news, it claims over 1,000 lives in the DR Congo, world's second deadliest outbreak. Since the beginning of the epidemic in August of 2018, the accumulated number of cases is 1,554, including 1,488 confirmed and 66 probable. In total, there was 1,029 deaths, 963 confirmed and 66 probable, and 438 people cured. So not a very high cure rate in this point. There are currently 213 suspected cases under investigation. 23 cases were reported in one day last week. the highest since the start of the outbreak, the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies reports. Major security challenges and lack of community acceptance of the response continue to hamper the efforts to end the outbreak, meaning people are getting sick and not going to see medical attention and allowing the disease to spread probably a little bit more than probably what it should. Tons of information here. Worryingly, many of these deaths are occurring with communities, which means that people are not seeking care and treatment in health centers. This is accelerating the spread of Ebola with communities. We are at a critical juncture where we need to step up our support to communities that are facing greater risk of infection. Yet Ebola responders face massive security challenges and a lack of resource for the response. An under-resourced operation creates a very real risk of the international spread of Ebola, according to Ebola virus disease coordinator of the IFRC. This is the world's second deadliest outbreak. More than 11,300 people died in West Africa in 2014 through 2016. And staying here in Africa, we are talking about 1.1 million people and 1.1 million food insecure. Food prices increase sharply as severe drought takes over Kenya. Their short rainy season from October to December has now come to an end, and they are now being delayed for the long rainy season that's supposed to begin from March to May. But a drought has been raised for 15 arid and semi-arid counties, while 5 counties have already reached the alarm stage. So as we talk about crop loss throughout the world, and it's not just about, cosmic rays increase and more precipitation, there are still drought conditions in these grand solar minimums, and those also contribute to crop loss. Now, there is a smaller percentage of crop loss to drought during grand solar minimum, if I'm not mistaken, but for the obvious reasons, when you have more flooding and more water falling, you delay and stunt your growth of your crops, flood them out, wash them out, they're destroyed. You can't replant. We'll actually show you guys a new map of the suitable days for work in the fields, but just another example here, we're already struggling. They're fighting frost out here in parts of North Africa. Kenyans and going through a drought right now. Mozambique has got plenty of moisture. In fact, they probably wish there was a way to donate some of that to Kenya, but it's really GSM conditions are present if you know about them. And this is that up and down roller coaster of temperature swings and precipitation swings and just a little bit of everything everywhere across the planet. And that's what we're seeing right now. We'll leave the link in the description for that one. And here we go. Multi-day widespread severe weather across the plains and Mississippi Valley of the U.S. This is kind of part of the weather report, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about it right now. So they're looking at a multi-day widespread severe weather outbreak. Heavy rain event is anticipated for much of the plains, Mississippi Valley this week. Again, we talked about this last week on Thursday, and I tweeted it out today where I showed the rain totals over the next 14 days. Some areas could be reaching over 7 to 8 inches of rain. Most of us will see about 2 to 3 inches of rain in just a short period of time. Tennis ball size hail and large tornadoes were already reported on May 5th. Several large ones in Texas, Kansas, and Nebraska. Here's a map of all the filtered storm reports for the day. Large hail, wind reports, tornado reports, there was 20. All in all, we had 174 storm totals. And check out Florida, they were in on the action today as well. A total of 20 tornadoes were reported, with the most notable near Tahoka, south of Lubbock, Texas. And here is some footage of that tornado, but it's not for broadcast, so we recommend that you check this out after the show. Here we go from the GOES 16. We can look at this. We won't get in trouble for that. But check it out. Almost stationary. What a storm here, guys. Can't wait to watch this after the show. Jerks. Anyway, cold front stretching across the Midwest, middle Mississippi Valley, Central Plains, and into the Colorado Rockies will cause showers and thunderstorms along it over the next couple of days. This front is expected to move faster across the Great Lakes region in Ohio Valley and reach the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states by Tuesday, May 7th, but the front will stall farther west and creating a focus of multiple rounds of rain and thunderstorms, according to the National Weather Service. I will go over that as well here towards the end, but this is pretty accurate of the map I showed everybody today, where we were looking at. This is the areas that are also going to be seeing the 2 to 3 inches, if not more, of rain everywhere that's shaded. Not only are we looking at increased chance for severe weather, but heavy rains is included with this forecast. Just look at this. Over the next couple days, as we move across the south, chances for severe weather increase. So we will have to keep our eyes here on the south part of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas, Missouri, and into the Ohio Valley for severe chances to increase as the week continues to move along. Yeah, up to 15 inches of snow, folks. Colorado, here we are talking about severe thunderstorms and flooding across the south. Forecasting website Powder Chasers has predicted up to 15 inches of fresh snow falling in Colorado this week, with their low estimate of 9 inches. According to their report, light snow will fall in the central and northern mountains on Wednesday, with this storm continuing into Thursday. The peak snowfall is expected to occur Wednesday night through Thursday, while the heaviest snow is expected to fall in the central mountains. Snow is expected on the Front Range as well. In Colorado Springs, temperatures are expected to drop on Wednesday night, bringing snow amid heavy precipitation that's expected to be seen throughout the week. Snow will also be possible in Denver on Thursday, depending on the temperature. If it's too warm, we'll likely see heavy rain instead. Well, that's great. Parts of Colorado also likely see hail as big as 1 inch in diameter, with winds in excess of 60 miles per hour. Those severe storms are expected to occur over tonight and in tomorrow of El Paso County. So we'll leave the link article for that. So snow on one end, and then severe thunderstorms after that. Here's a winter returns to France with snow and ice, similar to what I just read on Watchers, but I wanted to cover here. Got a little bit of footage as well of the snowfall.
Parts of the French Riviera resembled a ski resort at the weekend, as a cold front brought ice and snow to the Côte d'Azur. After basking in sun over Easter, toboggans and road gritters were seen on the streets of Antibes. The story was the same across much of France, with snow and wind gusts up to 130 kilometers an hour in the Rhone Valley. Paris experienced its coldest May temperatures for 22 years, while the strong winds delivered a rough ride for passengers on ferries in and out of Marseille.
All right, folks, so that's today as well. So France, Europe, all over Europe and France. We were talking about this cold weather. Well, they sure got it. And the snow is out there still. It's May 6th. We're still talking about snow. Again, Colorado is no stranger to May snow. It happens from time to time. But I don't know about you. I just noticed from last year to this year how we seem to have winter weather gripping on just a little bit longer than we had last year. I'll have to do the research. I'm pretty sure, though, that we're still seeing snow chances well into later this week as well in parts of the United States and other parts around the world as well, guys, especially through the 11th through the 18th. That's just absolutely incredible for this time of year after they had some very nice warmth throughout that region during the Easter holiday, as you already heard the gentleman speak of already. And let's go back to the states. Severe thunderstorms widespread. Now listen, we're talking about the weather that's moving across. Well, now we're dealing with the flooding and how many people we've lost so far. At least 3 have been killed after major flooding to hit the U.S. Midwest late this week, bringing the death toll to at least 7 since April 29th. This is just from floods, folks. Widespread flooding is affecting the country from Michigan to the south and is expected to continue into the days ahead. Storms that hit the region over the past 7 days produced numerous tornadoes, overturning trucks, damaging homes, dumped heavy rain on a region dealing with the widespread of flooding since mid-March. The state of Iowa has received more precipitation in the last 12 months than any recorded period of 124 years of data. Remember, folks, we were talking about cycles when we were talking to Scott. and how cycles are intermixing right now. Certain cycles are connecting at the same time where these other cycles are connecting, kind of like the train going 25 miles, or the one that arrives in 25 minutes and 20 minutes, they arrive at the same time eventually. And that's what we're seeing right now. A lot of these 100-year records for flooding. Here's one here, 157 years. The Mississippi River, 6.9 meters at Rock Island, the Quad Cities region on May 2nd, breaking the previous record of 22.63. So not a huge record broken, but nonetheless, a record was broken from 93, making it the highest level there in 157 years. The flood crest surpassed 24 feet in the Illinois city on May 3rd, reported the National Weather Service. The Mississippi River has been at a major flood stage for over 42 days now and will continue to stage into the weekend. Yet another rise is expected as new storms hit the region. And guys, NOAA actually got something right. They predicted the flood season to go well into May, and right now it does not have any signs of letting up at this point. So this forecast has been right. That's one of the very few times that NOAA is right, but they got one right this time. And, broken clock is right twice a day at least. State of emergency was declared in Michigan's Wayne County after storms caused widespread flooding, leaving an estimated 3,000 homes flooded. A levee overtopped about 40 miles northwest of St. Louis, flooding towns of Winfield and Foley. Other parts of the Midwest and the South experienced severe flooding with roads and bridges closed, and flooding is expected to continue in the days ahead as more storms descend on the region. Once again, not for broadcast use, so go over to the website after the show. Check out the footage that we have here. This is in Texas, LaGrange, Texas. Here we are in Hannibal, Missouri, and of course, LaGrange, Mississippi, inundating, town rains here, flooding, all kinds of stuff going on, folks. Davenport, Iowa, not for broadcast. We don't want you to see it. Slow-moving cold front will gradually push into the south and the east to produce strong to severe thunderstorms and locally heavy rain, with flooding from the south and the Tennessee Valley into the southeast mid-Atlantic by this weekend, the National Weather Service has warned. There is also a slight risk of excessive rainfall today, with heavy rain could cause flash flooding across lower Mississippi and the Mississippi Valley, as well as parts of the Ohio Valley, mid-Atlantic region as well. So lots of rain that has fallen across the United States. It doesn't matter what part of the country you're in. If you're in Florida, the Deep South, the Midwest, the Plain States, the Northeast, we've been spared a little bit, but we still have had our share of rain as well. Another headline I just wanted to bring up before we take our first break. Another snow headline here in Italy, May 6th. 67 centimeters of snow fell in the mountains of Italy, Veneto region on Sunday, May 5th. The late season snowstorm delivered winds and flurries throughout the southern Dolomite region and broke local records for spring snowfall, according to the Italian media. So once again, just wanted to look at this. Just a little snow shower. Snowflakes look pretty large there. Lots of accumulating snow, I'd say. Goodness. Now, to be fair, this is in the mountains, so it's not like it's on the lower elevations, but still impressive for this time of year. Still talking about snow, and it's May. I know I've said that. I'm a broken record. All right, guys. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right. So let's take a look at the climate news part of the broadcast tonight. Brought to you by the Grand Solar Minimum Channel. Just kidding. Climate politics abroad are turning decidedly skeptical. You don't say. So I read this a little bit, not a lot, but the bottom line of this article is that we are starting to see a little bit more skepticism on man-made global warming. And we talked about in this article about France and their yellow vests and how they took to the streets and demanded, a relaxation on carbon tax. That's how all this started. And 4 weeks into the protest, the president of France dropped the climate part of the bill that was going to raise taxes. Now, there's obviously other problems in France than just the carbon tax, but that was the main thing the cost of living in France is just through the roof. It's reportedly that more people in their mid-30s and lower 40s are moving back in with their parents because they can't afford to live off the wages they have, and the cost of energy today is through the roof. As you know, a lot of these countries take part in these, like the Paris Climate Agreement, for instance. And the whole reason why this carbon tax increase was going to be thrown out there was because France was not happy with their lack of contribution to lowering emissions. So they're trying to drastically improve that. Newsflash, they need to watch a couple of episodes. In fact, they should watch the Scott Chapman just to get a basic there. Also in 2018, in part of a backlash against Canada Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, climate policy's global warming skeptic Doug Ford was elected as Premier of Ontario, Canada's most populous province. Ford announced he would end energy tax imposed by Ontario's previous Premier and would join Saskatchewan's Premier in legal fight against Trudeau in the federal carbon tax. Terrible example, unfortunately, Doug Ford. He's got a little bit of a past. So, but at least, I guess the only good thing we can say is that guys like him will get rid of these carbon taxes and get rid of this man. He does not believe in man-made global warming, so that is the one positive about him. But I'll let you guys read on for yourselves here. But the point of this article, and I wanted to bring it up tonight in our broadcast, was due to the fact that we're seeing more and more people starting to become skeptics of the reports they have in front of them about these certain taxes and how much man actually does play into the role of climate change, because now there's so much new evidence coming out that's supporting that the CO2 theory is falling apart right in front of our eyes. So many great points that we brought up Saturday night with Scott Chapman as well. We'll leave the link to that article. And this is another thing I wanted to bring up too while we're over here. What's up with that? Swedish power shortages because of renewable energies. Again, we're seeing a situation, and they're talking about where they're concerned about how they're going to be able to have enough power to produce a platform for the 2026 Winter Olympics. There's already concern. And down the bottom, they talk about how that they're going to be building more of these turbines in areas where are the coldest. And when you talk about having these turbines in these cold regions, the northern Arctic region, this is jet fuel. Thanks to Mari, she's the one that informed me what they use to clean these off. So they're using...
No, they're burning jet fuel.
They're burning jet fuel.
On their green energy devices and dumping antifreeze all over them.
So they're using...
I have heard instances that they dump jet fuel on them, though.
Well, they're burning it off with jet fuel.
Not vetted.
And then dumping antifreeze on. I mean, God knows what that's doing to the soil content there next to the system. But I was talking to Mari too. If enough ice and snow builds up on these things, I mean, these can malfunction and collapse. So again, this is where I point to my friends who believe that renewable energy is the way to go. What do you do about this? And then you're wasting a bunch of money building a lot of these turbines in cold areas where you're going to have high maintenance costs by de-icing these blades and making sure they don't collapse and put too much weight on these blades and break off and cause even more damage. So to me, this looks like a money pit, if you ask me. And, you know, to give what it gives back in return in energy, it is not worth the price tag nor the maintenance that they're doing. And yeah, they're going to have tons of power shortages if they keep relying on this kind of renewable energy. That's for sure. Moving right along here. Oh yeah. Big news verified by NOAA. We've talked about this before. There is a study that was done, and this is an example here. Here is a picture of a weather reporting station, temperatures and barometric and whatnot, humidity. And it's right here in the middle of a parking facility where we have the heat of car engines driving by, maybe even parking near the area. Over time, you see the rise in temperature. And we show also the maximum solar radiation, but they're asking why the lag. This chart clearly shows what's going on here with these stations that are really, they're being placed to fit an agenda. And of course, where these yellow pins are, they placed other weather stations, and of course they found that there was variable differences in temperature readings. So it's now being proved that NOAA, and I think they knowingly know this, they have placed weather monitoring stations in areas where they're going to get their agendas returned as far as the kind of info they need to support their funding, their methods, the message that they're trying to beat, that we are responsible for climate change. And if we don't pay all this money, the end of the world will occur in 12 years. Which I love how the mainstream media is hijacking the coincidental 12-year mark, because that's when we really see some upticks in floods and earthquakes and volcanoes. This is the appetizer of what we're going to see in the 2030s. It's only going to get worse. This is kind of like the warm-up. This is the preseason to the grand solar minimum, what we're going through right now until 2023, possibly 2024. We get a weak max, and then we start descending into the 2030s, and that's when we start seeing the possibility of a prolonged grand solar minimum conditions, if they don't already start. The charts that we went over in the presentation on Saturday really show us that we are at the point now where we are going to just drop. Now it's going to take time to see us get all the way down to the bottom, but the point is that we are in that process right now of heading down, and quickly. Guys, stick around. We'll be right back. I got the weather part to go over. Don't go anywhere.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.
All right, guys, and just in case if you're wondering if you can get some awesome Grand Solar Minimum t-shirts, you can. Click on the t-shirt. Take a visit at our Teespring shop. We have various sizes, designs. Mari's brilliant Al Gore CO2 t-shirts, or if you just like the plain logo, I have this one myself. Maybe one night I'll wear it on the air just to prove I have one as well. So anyway, it's there if you guys want a shirt. Taking a look at our weather, well, they've done another hurricane outlook update. And it's not really much of an update. Total of 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, 3 major hurricanes expected this season. This is slightly above the 30-year average of the 12 named storms and 6 hurricanes and 3 major hurricanes. Now, if you take a look at last year's totals and what this year's is, total named storms is down from what happened last year. Hurricanes is 1 lower than what we had last year. And Category 3 or higher stays about the same from the average, but also is above 1 more than what we had last year. The lead research in this was from the IBM company once again, and they are crediting this El Nino right now as to keeping things less active. In fact, they talk a little bit about the El Nino, what the role it plays here. And they're saying if we see this El Nino conditions continue through this month, that they're going to have to come back and maybe lower the hurricane outlook for 2019. Now, it is predicted to see El Nino conditions through October, which goes right through the heart of peak season of hurricane season. So this will be interesting to watch this summer to see how El Nino, or the week thereof El Nino, plays a role so far this year in how strong hurricane season. But right now, I'm going to trust the IBM weather company. They were accurate about the temperature predictions for above and below average temperatures. They put the sun in their models, and I believe that's why they're so close right now as well. Also, they're talking about El Nino, which is a natural ocean cycle. So here's where I like to play connect the dots. If this weather research company is blaming what the effect from a natural cycle is going to do to our climate, shouldn't that be another hint that climate change is natural and that the factors that go into play with climate change are much bigger than, trace gases of CO2? The sun and these rotations and circulations of oceans and ocean cycles, they are responsible for the climate. The sun drives everything, and the ocean currents assist. But not once in here does this official report, and here's where I'm going to put the nail in the coffin here, not once in this official report about hurricane season does it mention the increase of CO2 being the reason for a slightly above average hurricane season. Not once in this article does it mention anything of CO2. But yet these politicians like Al Gore and all the rest, Michael Mann, will tell you that we are going to see more intense storms because of man-made emissions. I watched an interview today with some school students who've been skipping school for 11 weeks now, 11 and 12 years old. I also made the tweet that my 11-year-old barely remembers to brush his teeth on a daily basis, let alone understanding how the climate works. Now, I believe these kids out here that are protesting and skipping school are doing so on the supervision and commands of their parents and teachers, and they're just basically regurgitating talking points. But not one of these students have offered an idea or a suggestion on how to fight it. All they keep saying is, we've got to do something now. We've got to take action. And it just seems like what everybody's saying. We got to take action. We got to do something now. But yet they don't tell us what that something is, and they don't tell us if it works or not. I shared an article on Facebook. I wish I would have shared it tonight on the show. The Green New Deal shows that it doesn't do anything to fight climate change. I think I did cover that. How interesting. And we knew that already. But again, we're starting to see things leak out now, and the truth is starting to slowly come out. But back to this report here from the IBM company. Like I said, this is all natural due to the sun, its cycles, and the cycles of our oceans. And not once do they mention the effects of man-made CO2 emissions affecting the hurricane season here for 2019. And I just wanted to make that clear, guys. All right, let's go over to the GFS here. At the end of the night, we always take a look at what our GFS is showing us across the Midwest. We're already dealing with flooding. As we start on Tuesday, some more rain moisture will move into the northeast into the evening and the overnight hours. The central part of the United States continues to see moisture, as well as the deep south and the Gulf. And things really pick up Wednesday evening into overnight hours. More heavy rain and thunderstorms across Arkansas and northeast Texas. And will continue into Thursday before finally we start to see more rain chances into the Ohio Valley. Also, where this orange and red spots are, we are also expecting severe weather alongside with this heavy rain here in the areas that you see that are in the orange and the reds and the yellows. We are expecting some severe weather with this, hail, high winds, and flooding, flash flooding. But this will move across the Midwest through the south and the Tennessee Valley. On Friday, by the weekend, the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic states will get a piece of this action before another system flares up once again in the southern part of the Gulf Coast, Louisiana, going into Mississippi and Alabama. A slight chance for severe weather as that storm races out. And then May 11th, another disturbance right in that same region of the Gulf into Texas. Houston's going to get some heavy rain. Here we are on the 12th of May, and we still see some slight chances in the upper elevations of Denver and Colorado where we could see snow on May 12th. With moisture moving across the south and the southern part of the United States, slighter chances for severe storms across the area on Sunday, May 12th, into Mississippi from into Alabama as well. And this system will move through the northeast. Now watch this thing. We get a little action here towards the northeast as this high pressure system kicks off to the coast. And as we get here on May 16th, this is quite a ways out, but I wanted to watch this low pressure system here that starts in the Gulf Coast. So this will be like the third system that we've had in the Gulf Coast region that's going to cause some problems. And I want you guys to pay close attention to this right here. I'm going to move a little bit at a time. So here we go. All right, this thing starts to gain coast, and it's just raking the coast of the Gulf. So it's in warm waters, and it's going to continue to strengthen. And then it gets a little weaker as it goes across Florida, but then it regenerates as it gets over here on the Atlantic side. Now this is on the 16th, and watch what this thing does here as we move forward. It's real intense once we get to North Carolina. All right, repeated the area that saw Hurricane Florence and the flooding that we got there. Let's move this forward a little bit. And now we see a lot of heavy rain moving into the northeast through the upstate part of New York, Philadelphia, the DC area. But thankfully right now, GFS has this thing just a little bit off the coast. Now, if this thing shifts a little bit more, this could be a pretty decent, sizable flooding event. This is going to start around the 15th of May and move its way up the East Coast by the 17th. And look out, by the 18th, the majority of the country actually sees high pressure, dries out. The Northwest, we start to see some showers develop, but very weak. And it looks like it increases across the northern plains, across the Michigan UP area on May 20th. And then once again here, it looks like the GFS is suggesting a new line of storms will be moving once again through the south and possibly be severe and heavy at the same time. Now, I wanted to go over temperatures because this looks like a typical spring pattern of moisture. So we get some warmth here, guys. The deep south along the east coast, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Ohio, 60s and 70s, Pennsylvania, same thing. We're not seeing that typical warmth that we usually have here in May. May 7th in the mid 70s in Cincinnati, and we see low 70s for a couple of days, upper 60s in the Ohio region, Pennsylvania. But really, guys, we're staying quite cool if you ask me. Look at this cold front here. May 10th, temperatures highs in the 40s in Wyoming and Colorado and parts of New Mexico. High temperatures in northwest Ohio, 51 degrees. So the cold air trying to stick around, and this is May 11th. Now we start to see some warmth building finally on May 11th through the 12th. A warm front starts to build in across the United States. The overnight temperatures in the 40s. Most of the region is pleasant by the 14th. And we see the majority of this warmth finally starting to reach up into the northwest or the northeast. And right about here, May 19th, May 20th. Now we're starting to see some serious heat in the south. We're getting close to June, folks. This is normal. But check this out. This is what I want to show you the most. 81 degrees in the capital region of New York. And they're forecasting, GFS now, look at that. The rest of the country, 56 degrees, 57 in Nebraska, 58 in Kansas, 41 in Colorado, 61 in Oklahoma, 58 in Illinois. But then Albany, New York, slated for an 88 degree temperature for the high. It's going to be hotter in Albany, New York than Dallas, Texas on May 22nd. Dallas, Texas, Houston area, 72 degrees for the high on May 22nd. And Albany, New York, you're looking at a temperature high of 88 degrees, folks, nearly 90 degrees. And I know I can tell you this, that is very, very hot for this time of year. In fact, it's very rare that we see those kinds of temperatures during the actual summer season here. Summer is not here at this point. We're getting close, but this is rather warm. But what's interesting is the temperature around the rest of the United States as a cold front is dipping down. We're warm here for a little while, and then a shot of cold air comes in from the Arctic and pushes all that warmth down into the Gulf. And you can see that line progressing more south and almost rapidly by the 22nd of May. But seeing all these 50s and 60s and then 88 degrees for the high in the capital region of New York. And Houston, Texas, only seeing a high of 72. Oklahoma City, somewhere around 62 degrees on May 22nd. So some very strange weather. Again, typical grand solar minimum type conditions. Not surprising to the folks that are watching this channel, of course. Mari, is there anything you would like to add in tonight before we take off for this Monday edition of the Grand Solar Minimum News Update?
Why not, Jake? You know me, I always like to say hello. Everyone's talking about how lovable we are.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
We try. We love you guys. We have a lot of people in like the Midwest in the chat talking about how things aren't going well planting. Matthew said no corn planted today, cold and wet in Nebraska. We got Gabriel. He was just giving me some conditions. I asked him where he was. He's in northeast Tennessee, Kingsport, near Bristol Speedway. Then you got Terry in Kansas. Most of the flooding there is here and there. She said the farmers there cannot get into their fields because the soil is pure mud.
All right, let me stop you right there. We've got a problem with the USDA department then, because if we're getting reports from these parts that you're talking about right now, for instance, Kansas is showing 6.2 days of suitable field work. Parts of Nebraska, 5.1 days of suitable field work. This is not adding up. If you're talking about people saying they can't even get in their fields in parts of Kansas or Nebraska, then why are we getting a report of so many days suitable for field work?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It's made me almost think of maybe we should start a campaign and call our farmers in these areas.
We need to start getting accurate numbers.
And see if we can sort of take a poll on these conditions. Not necessarily big ag farmers. I'm talking like your local farmers that are willing to actually give an honest opinion. So it's interesting. Per is in the chat. Per Strandberg. We've done an interview with him. He says the other day heavy snow fell on southern Sweden and around Oslo in Norway after a very warm April. Frost damage on the fruit trees is extensive. And he said large swings in the jet stream caused by low solar activity happened in the Little Ice Age during Maunder minimum.
Yep,
so
sure did.
He is on Twitter. He's always posting some interesting things on Twitter. And he is also linked off of our website. I don't have his URL memorized, but we have his URL. Whoops, I'm dropping stuff. We have his URL also linked off our website. Daniel is in central Ohio, and he says his seeds have started, but they have not transplanted yet.
And now, here's an interesting part. Ohio has 1.1 day of suitable field work, but yet we're talking about seeds being in the ground. So definitely some glaring
it's been up and down
misinfo here, according to the official reports, but yet our subscribers are reporting different conditions.
And
go ahead, Mari.
Here in New York, of course, it's been up and down as well. It's been a yo-yo. It's been, today it's warm. The next 2 weeks it's going to be cold and then
50,
cooler time.
71 today and 50 on Thursday for the high, with 60s in the lower 60s for the rest of the next 2 weeks.
It's really weird. We had it was like 70 degrees like 2 weeks ago, and then it dropped down into the 30s, freezing. Lots of moisture. I even saw some sleet. And it's just up and down. It's weird weather.
Wacky season, that's for sure.
It's interesting to hear you people come in the chat and tell us your perspective so we know, because it's hard to really track. And we can only follow what we can find online, what the news outlets, for me, social media, people like the listeners here at Grand Solar Minimum, your feedback is way more reliable than what we're getting from places like the IPCC and NOAA. So we'll have to look into that and see what's going on with this crop report and see if we can maybe reach out to some of these local farmers that have 6 days of planning and see what the reality is.
Now, mind you, that was week ending April 28th, but still you would think the numbers would be a little closer, because it sounds like they're opposites from what the people are saying and what the report's giving us right now.
Look at this map. Look at this moisture.
This is through the end of May, just about May 22nd. I mean, the South, the rest of the country, this is about average rainfall. Some is getting heavier. Upstate New York, parts of the Northeast, Wisconsin, Kansas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas, you're going to get lots of heavy rain over the next several days. But to look at the entire country and say, hey, there's not a part of this country that's not getting any kind of rainfall over the next 2 weeks.
Kansas, Terry in Kansas said more than a third of the farmers have gotten to the fields as some fields dry out before other fields. So that still isn't a lot compared to
6.2 is what they're saying. That just doesn't make any sense.
We'll have to keep an eye on that. It's just, that's all we can do is observe, take note, and compare year over year with our own data, you know. Well, thank you guys for joining me in the chat. It's always a pleasure. I'm going to pass it back to you, Jake. Close that up.
All right. Thank you, Mari. We appreciate you guys tuning in to the Grand Solar Minimum News updates that we do try to have on a somewhat daily basis. Our next broadcast will be Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. That'll be May 8th. Tentatively, we'll go ahead and plan for that. But we are looking to get back into the normal swings. Hey, listen, just because it stopped snowing in the northern hemisphere, sort of, doesn't mean we don't have anything to report here in the summertime. There's going to be crop failure. There's going to be hurricanes. There's going to be lots of flooding that we can see so far. Our space weather is interesting right now. We've got earthquakes. And guys, I hate to be to watch out for, but we haven't had any kind of volcanic issue in quite some time. So if activity continues to increase in that department, we should be due to see something here in the near future as far as volcanic activity. As we have one 7.1 earthquake today, we'll watch and see if we have any more solar flares as well from that AR 2740 and the possibility of the birth of AR 2741. That's going to do it for us tonight, guys. If there's any breaking news, we will break in with any updates that are necessary. Until then, guys, we will talk soon. Have a good night.